From today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice, that's why. All my life, I've been grinding all my life, yeah. All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice, that's why. All my life, I've been grinding all my life, look. I'm married to this game, that's who I made my wife. Said I'd die alone, I told that she probably right. One thing that's for sure, not a stranger to this life. Got a safe that's full of Franklins and a shoulder full of stripes.
To the Black Cactus is Adrianne Shropshire here on KBLA Talk 1580, and I feel like for the next 46 days we are all going to be grinding for what is going to feel like the entirety of our life. So yes, we are 46 days away from Election Day. But it is also important to remember, and I know I say this all the time, that November 5th is your last day to participate in this election. It is not the only day. It is not the first day. It is the last day because ballots are going out in states. We're going to talk a little bit later in the show about North Carolina. We'll see if their ballots ever went out. But we know ballots are going out in Pennsylvania and several other states. People will begin the process of voting literally within days. We are a couple of weeks away from, or a week in some cases, a couple of weeks away from voter registration deadlines. People need to be checking your registration to make sure that you are not getting kicked off the rolls. If you are not registered, you need to be paying attention to the voter registration deadline so you can get yourself registered. And then early voting will start in states that where early voting is available. So we are days and weeks away from people casting their ballots. And this week is yet another week in the complicated, sometimes chaotic, sometimes outrageous nature of the 2024 election. And I want to start actually by going back a couple of weeks. You all might remember that a couple of weeks ago we had the chair of the Teamsters Black Caucus, Mr. James Kirby, on discussing their endorsement. The Teamsters Black Caucus came out and endorsed Vice President Harris, even though their international had not made a decision yet. And so you all might remember that. I'm going to play a little clip of Mr. Kirby talking to us about it. What are you hearing from the rank and file folks of the Black Caucus about what that phrase means to them?
It means something to me, too.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go back to 45. 45, we suffered in organized labor. We suffered at the National Labor Relations Board.
Right.
We suffered with people as Jeff Sessions, implemented cut of actual memos that hindered us in organizing the cannabis industry. Mm-hmm. Not only the Teamsters Union, but UFCW and other unions that attempted to organize in the cannabis industry. Mm-hmm. Jeff Sessions hindered us, and that was one of 45 appointees.
Right.
We cannot go back to the days of the LRB actually siding with the company and not paying attention to what the working people of America is really suffering and being when the thumb is being put on them by corporate America. And we cannot allow, just like Yellow Freight, I said Yellow Freight went bankrupt. They abandoned the working people with 22,000 Teamster jobs. They abandoned us for no reason after receiving over $700,000 from the federal government.
So that was James Kirby, the chair of the Teamsters Black Caucus, describing why the Black Caucus chose to endorse Vice President Harris by essentially saying or laying out the most recent ways in which Donald Trump has proven himself to be anti-worker and anti-union. So as a little update, earlier this week, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters declined to endorse any presidential candidate, despite having a history of endorsing Democrats for president. So they had their interviews with the two candidates. They came out and did a survey of their members, asking their members who they thought the union should endorse. That was a survey that was done with 20,000+ members, I believe, participated in the poll, the majority of whom among those 20,000 said that they wanted to see the union endorse Donald Trump. The majority said they wanted to see the union endorse Donald Trump. Since then, however, local unions, local Teamsters unions from across the country, and particularly local Teamsters unions in swing states, have come out and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to the tune of about 1 million Teamsters. So local unions representing more than 1 million Teamsters have come out and themselves taken upon themselves to endorse Vice President Harris. Now that's more than 1 million Teamsters versus the 20,000 who took the poll. So, you know, Mr. Kirby and some of his colleagues inside, of the Teamsters obviously were way out ahead of the union, and now I think are concerned. I heard one of the Teamsters say that any Teamster member who would want to endorse Donald Trump should give up their union card. And we heard Mr. Kirby and James Kirby lay out why that is, with just some of the most recent ways in which Donald Trump has eroded on, stepped on, laughed actually about workers not having the right to strike. Most recently, we even saw James Hoffa come out, the former president of the International Union, and chastise Sean O'Brien, who was the current president, to say this is that this is a mistake, that is a failure of leadership on the part of the Teamsters to not endorse Vice President Harris. And you wonder why in all the years past the Teamsters have endorsed Democratic candidates for president. You wonder what is the difference this time that would cause them to say we can't support a woman who has been on the picket lines with us, who has shown throughout her career that she is solidly with workers and solidly with unions. Makes you wonder why they would fail to endorse her in this election. So we have a lot to talk about this week. That is one of the curious things that happened this week. But I also want to just remind you all, because you will remember at the debate, Trump's outrageous and racist claims about Haitian immigrants. And since then, him and his vice presidential running mate have doubled down on their anti-blackness, stoking violent threats against the citizens of Springfield, Ohio, and against the Haitian community there. We have seen, parents talking about being afraid because there are bomb threats to schools and other office buildings in Springfield, all because of the lies that Donald Trump said. On the other side, we're going to talk with Guerline Joseph, who is the co-founder and executive director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance. So stay with us here at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So, no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
We're thrilled to announce that the Dear Future Wifey podcast is now available on the Urban One Podcast Network. This show, hosted by Latiris R. Whitfield, explores the journey of discovering and rediscovering love and relationships. With over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, Dear Future Wifey has become a prototype for discussions about love and relationships. Learn how to rediscover love, heal, and have faith in relationships. Go to urbanonepodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
So the vice president has also been on the move this week. You might have noticed. She talked with journalists from the National Association of Black Journalists, NABJ. You all certainly will remember the controversy, I guess we will call it, outrageousness, which is a word that I'm just going to overuse, I guess, forever. When Trump went to talk with the NABJ at the NABJ conference, said all kinds of outlandish things that got him in lots of trouble, but also got NABJ in a lot of trouble. The vice president came around for her turn. She also co-led a rally last night with Oprah. I know that there was hundreds of thousands of people on watching. Maybe you all were one in the number. It was very much reminiscent of an Oprah episode with, the little living room set up and Oprah, in her element, asking questions. It was quite spectacular. It also fired up the vice president. So she was back in Atlanta earlier this week as well. She had a really emotional and passionate moment of righteous anger, where she demanded that her opponent and his party answer for their failure to care for women and their families. You all, I think, may have heard, certainly was a focus of the Unite for America rally that she and Oprah did last night, where there was a focus on a young mother from Georgia who lost her life as the result of not being able to get care. And her family was on. But the vice president was, fired up. This is an issue that she cares very deeply about, that she knows is one of the ways in which women's lives are undermined. So let's take a listen to what she had to say when she was in Georgia.
1 in 3 women in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban. This includes Georgia and every state in the South except Virginia. Think about that when you also combine that with what we know has been long-standing neglect around an issue like maternal mortality. Think about that when you compound that with what has been long-standing neglect of women in communities with a lack of the adequate resources they need for health care, prenatal, during their pregnancy, postpartum. Think about that. And these hypocrites want to start talking about this is in the best interest of women and children? Well, where you been? Where you been when it comes to taking care of the women and children of America?
So obviously, this is an issue that is not going away. The idea that on the one hand you have a presidential candidate who says bizarre and crazy things all the time, and sometimes I think we get caught up in the silliness of what he says. Right? He stands on the debate stage and says, I'm a leader in fertility. Like, I'm not even sure if he understood what he was talking about. I think sometimes he thinks he's being cute, but he was attempting to say that he supports IVF. Even though that we know that that is not true, and we certainly know that's not true of his party. We know that the Republicans in the United States Senate had an opportunity to prove that they support families taking steps to be able to have families and or get the health care that they need to be able to have families. They had an opportunity, the Republicans in the Senate this week, to show that they actually do support IVF care, and they chose not to. The Democrats brought up a bill once again that would have supported IVF, and the Republican senators shot that bill down. We heard again last night from a number of people in the audience at the Unite the Country. I think I may be getting that wrong. I may be Unite for America rally about the importance of reproductive care, the worry that American women have about their access to reproductive care, their access to abortion care. This is not an issue, again, that's going away, because we know that it's actually on the ballot in several states. We know that it's been on the ballot in states around the country. We've seen people come out in record numbers to pass abortion rights or constitutional amendments in states, whether that's Ohio or other places. We know that we're going to see it on the ballot again this year. We know that it's on the ballot in Florida. We know that it's on the ballot in Maryland, and in Maryland in particular, it's an important issue on the ballot because there is, an important down ballot race on the ballot in Maryland as well, and that is a United States Senate race. And so folks may know, I think I probably mentioned before, that there was a Black woman running for the United States Senate in Maryland named Angela Alsobrooks, also a champion and supporter of women's reproductive health. That ballot initiative being on the ballot in Maryland hopefully is a way, is yet another thing that galvanizes people to the polls, turns people out in a way that just shows the fire that exists, not just even, simply among women, but across all kinds of demographics. This has been an issue when we saw the turnout in Ohio, for example, around the ballot initiative there. The largest supporter, the group with the highest support for the ballot initiative in Ohio, I believe, was Black men. And so with all of the talk that we've heard about Black men not being motivated to vote, or Black men, not voting for, the vice president, I think that we continue to see the ways in which Black men actually show up, and actually on election day, and not just in polls. But we see demographics across the spectrum coming out to support reproductive rights. I think people are deeply concerned about the way in which reproductive rights in many ways is a harbinger, or the loss of reproductive rights is a harbinger for all the many other rights that we might be losing in this country, particularly with our very undemocratic Supreme Court that, continues to undermine not just our democracy, but obviously the most fundamental rights that we have. We talk often about how the court, and we're going to talk a little bit about the court in just a little bit, but we know that in so many ways, the court is taking away some of the most basic rights that we actually thought that we would, never lose, or that we thought were settled law, right? And I oftentimes say that, we are in this midst of this abortion crisis, right? We're in the midst of this reproductive freedom crisis. But for many of us, and I'm sure many of you, the first domino that fell, or felt like the first domino that fell, was actually around voting rights. It was when the Supreme Court made the decision to start the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. And so we know that, that when we look at what has happened, not just at the Supreme Court, but also, at in states around the country, and Georgia is an example of it, but in states around the country where obviously now we know that women have actually lost their lives because they weren't able to get the care that they needed. We know that women have, essentially gone into hospitals and asked for care and been turned away and been told to come back when it's so bad. I mean, the vice president said last night, what does it mean, when we say that we have exceptions for the life of the mother? What does it mean? Does it mean that women have to be on death's door before they actually get the care that they need? And I think that, there are many women in this country. Texas would be another good example of women literally being at death's door, going to the hospital, asking for care, coming out of the hospital and sitting in their cars, and literally, bleeding. Nearly to death, right? Because they have been turned away and can't get the care that they need. Finding themselves in a state of sepsis, right? Because they weren't able to get the care that they need. So I think that the vice president continues to push on this issue, and rightly so, in terms of making sure that it stays at the forefront of the conversation, that it stays at the forefront of how the country understands the danger that we are in, not just with the Supreme Court decisions. Obviously, the Supreme Court is a huge and significant threat to our democracy right now, and the President Biden has put forward some Supreme Court reforms that, if in a President Harris administration, hopefully will see the light of day. And if the Democrats are able to hold on to the Senate, I know that the Senate also has Senator Whitehouse has a set of bills that he's prepared to bring forward to reform the court. But it is critical and important that the vice president keep this issue at the forefront, not only because women's lives are at stake, and not only because our daughters, will live in a world in which they have fewer white rights than our grandmothers, but because it is, again, one of those issues that is really a harbinger for the kind of country that I think we do not want to become, the kind of country where we are okay, or there are segments of the country that are okay with diminishing the rights of all of us, that we live, not wanting to live in a country where we are okay with the literal health and well-being, life and death situations are taken out of the hands of individual people, in this case, individual women, to make decisions for themselves, and put into the hands of politicians, as we often say, to determine what their quality of life is going to be. I don't think that anyone wants to live in a country that is, designed to take the decisions about your life out of your hands and put them into the hands of people that you don't know and who actually don't have your best interest at heart. So I think that, as we continue over the next 46 days. As we, as I said earlier, feels like we are literally about to be grinding all of our lives to November 5th. But this is an issue that we can't let up on, that the vice president isn't going to let up on. And I think that when we're talking to folks about why this is important, why this election is important, we need to remember that. We need to remember that we have a choice to make that is really about life and death in this particular moment, and also going forward for our children, right? For not just our daughters, obviously, but partners that they have. I want to just bring in right now Guerline Joseph to talk to us about what we have been hearing in Springfield. So Guerline, I want to welcome you to the show and just ask you quickly to tell us what you're hearing from folks in Springfield about the attacks on the Haitian community there, and what people are feeling right now.
Thank you so much for having me. And the reality is the situation is dire. We have been working with the community in Springfield well before this whole debacle happens with the false narrative. Now we see Mr. Vince actually came out and said that they created the whole narrative for the purpose of destabilization and really divide and conquer. And the work that we were doing prior to all of this is really organizing the community, working with the local union to train them to be able to fulfill the positions that were needed. So these are professionals who are in the area getting extra training to be able to better themselves, better the community in Springfield, paying their taxes, growing the economy, bringing more culture into Springfield, revitalizing a dying city, right?
Yeah.
And now, because of those created false violence narrative, we see people afraid.
Right.
One of our clients told us that he went to work and his colleague came to him and asked him basically, how does it taste? Do you love eating pets, kind of thing?
Brilliant. That is absolutely outrageous, and I want to continue this conversation with you when we move forward. I know that I have a lot of questions for you, and I know that the listeners want to know what's happening and what you're hearing. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Doug Davis with the latest from the Black Information Network. The latest polling shows that the presidential race in Pennsylvania is very close. The latest Emerson College and the Hill poll shows that Vice President Harris with 50% of the likely vote in Pennsylvania, while former President Trump has 49% of the likely vote. Ballots in Georgia will now have to be counted by hand. Critics are worried after Georgia's election board approved a new rule by a 3-2 vote that could delay the reporting of election results. Critics say the 3 board members who supported the rule are Trump allies who have vocally supported him in the past. Legal challenges are expected. Summer is coming to a close this weekend, and so is the run for Tyra Banks' pop-up ice cream shop in D.C. The supermodel began offering her unique flavors in mid-July and even got a visit from VP Kamala Harris and TikTok food critic Keith Lee. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Approach with caution over in downtown's 110 North on-ramp from the westbound 10 Washington Boulevard split as a brush fire is on the right shoulder and a 15 to 20-minute backup runs heavy from Slauson Avenue. In Los Feliz, right lane is blocked with an accident on the 5 South before Los Feliz Boulevard with a 15 to 20-minute backup from Alameda Avenue. Also, an injury crash in downtown LA's 101 South off-ramp to Mission Road is causing a 40-minute backup from Cahuenga Boulevard as it involves injuries in the left lane. And Elysian Park has a stall block in the left lane of the 5 North at the 2 Glendale Freeway.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. and their weight. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
Is this the tackle? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Interesting weekend coming up in college football and the NFL. 2 special games on Saturday involving our HBCUs. In Washington, D.C., the Battle of the Real HU. Howard University at home against Hampton. It's the 99th game between these 2 schools. Hampton has won the last 7. Down south, Jackson State is at Grambling. First game in 3 years between these 2 legendary HBCU programs. A combined 208 players from Jackson State and Grambling have played in the NFL. USC plays their first Big Ten Conference game tomorrow. The Trojans are at Michigan. 12:30 kickoff on CBS. UCLA gave up 42 points at home last week to Indiana. Tomorrow, the Bruins are at LSU. We'll find out how good the Chargers really are in Sunday's game at Pittsburgh. The Rams hope to avoid an 0-3 start when they play their home opener Sunday against the 49ers. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. You are listening to the Black Pack. I'm your host, Adrianne Shropshire, and we are back with Guerline Joseph, the Executive Director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance. And I want to, again, thank you so much for joining us. You know, you said two things that were really impactful, right? One was that you reminded us, I guess, and maybe for some people who did not know, what J.D. Vance said, the vice presidential running mate to Donald Trump said in an interview this week. He said that he has to make up stories to get people to pay attention, right? In other words, we have to lie in order to get people riled up. So that was one thing that I think I want to just make sure that the listeners heard you say, because that is in a fact and is exactly what he said. And I want to come back to that. And then the other thing that you said, which is the impact, right, of their sort of lies and racism, which is families being disparaged, right? Families having people come in and say horrible things to them based on these lies that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and now others, right? Nearly the whole of the Republican Party is parroting these horrible lies that we know are lies, right? And so I want to just, we know that this is not the first time that the Haitian community has been scapegoated by Donald Trump, quite frankly. We know that the threats of violence and harassment, the sort of overall escalation that we've seen, the sort of spread of rapid disinformation, which we've seen unfold. It has been horrible and horrific to watch. I can't imagine what it is like for the families that are experiencing this in Springfield. But again, we know it's not the first time that Donald Trump has singled out Haitians in particular, right? We remember his S-hole countries comment from when he was the sitting president. But talk to us some more about what I know that your organization provides a lot of support for Haitian communities around the country. But talk to us some more about what people are feeling and what they are doing in terms of pushing back or fighting back or trying to, one, protect themselves, but then also pushing back.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing the reality that this is not the first time. But one of the things that I'm really trying to do is give some context behind this whole story to begin with and connecting that to how the only story, the only reality that we could find connecting to any person, regarding, literally the story is we have an African-American sister who was having a mental breakdown in Kenton, Ohio, and they did call 911, and the neighbor stated that she beat her cat. And when we looked into that and realized, okay, how do we provide some type of support and really look into what happened? And I realized that how in these United States of ours, when a Black woman, whether you are of immigrant descent or not, and I want to make that clear, when a Black woman in America is having a crisis, and instead of helping that, woman, that sister, we have people in power taking her moment of vulnerability and weaponize it against other Black communities. Because our sister who in that state was not a Haitian, has no connection, no immigrant background, but guess what? She's a Black American. She can be Haitian. She can be any Black person in America. Therefore, we are going to create this and weaponize her vulnerability in her time of need, and create stories. Wanted to really bring that into Black America at large to understand that at the end of the day, when they are shooting, when they are using us against, when they are using their power against us, they don't care if you are Haitian or Jamaican or descendant of enslaved people in the United States, right? The reality is all they see is our Blackness and the fact that we are all related at the end of the day. Wanted to bring that to our understanding of how they are creating this issue and weaponizing the issue of one Black woman against an entire community that now is extending not only in Ohio, but we are getting a call from Pennsylvania. I myself, as I'm talking to you, I received an email that says, the N-word go back to Haiti. Another call literally came to me and said, N-word You are the reason why Haitian and other African are bringing AIDS into Boston. This is the ripple effect that we are seeing in the United States, where people in power who should be protecting the constituents are now using this created narrative to use our life, my life, and your life as political pawn in their games to regain power.
Right. And so I think one of the things you've said several things that are really important here. And one is that just recognizing that all of this lives under the umbrella of racism, anti-Black racism to be specific. Right. And so that it does not matter. If you are a Black American whose family has been here for 300 years, it doesn't matter if you are a Haitian immigrant who is, here, recently, or if you are, a Senegalese immigrant who's been here for 40 years. The point is that racism is used not only to divide us within the Black community, but also in political moments to create fear. Right, to gin up fear. And so what we know is that as Donald Trump falls in the polls, as they begin to panic, they only have a couple of things that they can rely on, right, to get their base riled up, right? We know that they will rely on racism, and we know that they will rely on misogyny. Both things they are using and weaponizing to the best of their ability. Let me ask you this question about just looking forward in terms of the election, and hopefully with all of our hard work we get a President Harris. What are the kinds of things, because immigration is a very complex issue, right? And I know, and lots of people are here, Haitians in particular, on TPS. I mean, it's a very complicated issue, and I know that there's lots of reforms that folks would want to see implemented. From your vantage point and from the communities that you are working with, what is it that you would want to see about our immigration system, particularly in sort of combating the ways in which we see anti-Blackness living and existing within our existing immigration laws?
Thank you so much. And the key things that you have mentioned is the fact that anti-Blackness and white supremacy are at the very heart of our immigration system, right? And so what we have been fighting for is a change of immigration policies that is centered in humanity and compassion, and that really highlight the reality that people are fleeing conditions. Let's take Haiti for example, fleeing conditions that are a direct result of U.S. foreign policy that continues to destabilize Haiti, making it the way it is. They're forcing people to flee, right? Yes. And when they come here, we remember what happened in Del Rio, which right now we are looking into the third year commemoration of Del Rio, when we saw white men in uniform on horseback, whipping the parents of people. The men was holding water and food, because while they were in the United States government refused to feed them. And we saw little Black girls and little Black boys, the moment they showed up, out of all the different ethnic backgrounds, the moment the little Black girls and the little Black boys showed up at the border, we responded with violence. We responded with horse galloping and whipping, and we responded with disappearing them by deportation. And so that is the reality of it all. So we are pushing for a systematic change when it comes to immigration, because what we are saying is we are also the people on the ground in Tijuana receiving the Ukrainians. The Haitian Wood Alliance and our partners in Tijuana, we were the ones receiving the Ukrainians, but they were received with compassion and love and dignity. And what we are saying is that shouldn't be an exception to the rule. The way we were able to receive the Ukrainians should be the way we receive people with compassion and dignity and respect.
And that is an important... that is an important point in terms of just compassion, humanity, and seeing the humanity and having our immigration policy be grounded in that. So, Guerline Joseph, I want to really thank you for joining us and talking about this issue. We are going to continue to track this. I would love to have you back on to talk a little bit more as the Haitian community in Springfield tries to recover and continue to try and find safety for them and their neighbors. And so thank you again for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. You're listening to The Black Pack. This is Adrianne Shropshire. On the other side, we are going to have a conversation with Congresswoman Nikema Williams about what is going on in Georgia. Stay with us. We have lots more to talk about.
You're part of The Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
October 2nd is California Clean Air Day. Go Metro for free and help cut down on pollution and traffic. It's our way of thanking you because every ride makes a difference. Let's clear the air together. Ready to go right now? Head to metro.net.
Hi, this is Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to be part of our city's legendary musical history at the 29th Annual Central Avenue Jazz Festival on September the 21st from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. For decades, the Central Avenue Jazz Festival has honored this historic corridor's unparalleled contribution to jazz. Enjoy a day filled with jazz, blues, and Latin jazz across 3 stages, featuring performances by Chief Ajua, the John Beasley Big Band, and Las Chicas. Indulge in a variety of delicious foods from barbecue to Asian fusion, and explore from a unique mix of vendors and more. The festival is free to attend, and it takes place on Central Avenue between King Boulevard and Vernon Avenue. Parking is limited, so Metro and rideshare are recommended. For more information, visit centralavejazzfest.com. That's centralavejazzfest.com. See you on the 21st.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelenos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
That morning chill means truck season.
5 more minutes.
No snoozing. Do it all in a Chevy Colorado or Silverado, including the class-leading range of the Silverado EV.
Talking to me?
Work, play, hauling, off-roading, a Chevy truck can take it all.
Okay, I'm up.
Get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Silverado 1500 and Colorado pickups when you finance with GM Financial Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 24.5%. Plus finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available to lease in some of the offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/30/20.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
You don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on The Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
This is The Black Pack. I am Adrianne Shropshire, and I am so happy to be joined right now by Congresswoman Nikema Williams. Hi, Nikema. How are you?
Hi, Adrianne. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us.
There's a lot going on in Georgia.
Listen, and we're about to jump right into it. I had a whole series of questions, but I feel like there is only really 2 that are really important right now. So, Congresswoman, you represent the 5th Congressional District. It is a storied...
The fighting 5th, Adrianne.
The fighting 5th. I'm gonna get it right. You succeeded the late and great voting rights champion John Lewis. You represent the district where Dr. Martin Luther King was born. Really a rich history of civil rights activism from where you sit, and yet we are seeing all kinds of extremism coming out of Georgia. And a history of that too, right? But I think that we've been sort of tracking the decisions of the State Board of Elections here. We've had a couple of conversations about the sort of outlandish, decisions that they're making, and just today, you'll correct me, but I believe just this morning, they made a decision that would require the ballots cast in this upcoming election to be counted by hand. This is obviously follows a string of questionable decisions that have the potential to delay certification of the election. We know that many of the people who are on the State Board of Election are actually election deniers. Can you talk to us, to the listeners, about what this decision was and what the potential implications of it are for voters in Georgia?
Yeah, absolutely, Adrianne. You set the stage exactly right. This is a district that is very rich in our voting rights history and fighting for our freedoms. And so we take it very personal when people come and try to attack the will of the voters, which we've seen happen before in 2020 when we played by the rules and we won. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, there's a need to change the rules. And that's what we're seeing play out right now in real time. Right. So today, the State Board of Elections, which has 3 pro-Trump appointees on the board, they decided that this close to the election that they would change the rules on how election certification would happen in the state of Georgia. And so instead of our typical where we have voting machines that the state paid a lot of money to get in place, now we're seeing that they want to hand count the ballots. And so what will happen is those hand counted ballots in a battleground state where we know that there will be a massive voter turnout, those ballots will now be counted by hand, and they want to put doubt in the minds of the voters in Georgia on if the election results are valid, because they see the writing on the wall, Adrianne. They know that the work that groups are doing on the ground, like yours, to make sure that voters turn out in force and have their voices heard, they know that voters are turning out. And so they are preempting the election results so that they can say if there is any discrepancy in what a hand count looks like versus what the machine count is. And we're talking about millions of ballots, millions. Yeah. And if there is any discrepancy, they can say, well, see, there it is. We told you that the results were not accurate. So we are engaged in lawsuits across the state because we want every voter to show up, cast their ballot, but we want those votes to be counted, and not only counted, but certified. That is the bare minimum. There has never been a discussion around election certification because our state constitution requires that boards of elections certify the results. It is not something that you have the ability to pick and choose if you want to, because the results are what they are. And the Board of Elections should certify them. But here we are in 2024. I am fighting battles that still equate to the same thing that my predecessor, the late Congressman John Lewis, had to fight for, and that is the free and fair access to the ballot.
And you are fighting. I mean, always want to commend you for the work that you do, not only in the state. I mean, you also happen to be the chairwoman of the Georgia Democratic Party. And so you have a lot that you are managing right now in your state. And then also really, standing in the gap in the halls of Congress. So just want to appreciate you for that. It really does feel like they've given up.
We're all in this together, Adrianne.
Really feels like they have given up on even trying to win voters, right? Like it is just easier in some ways in their minds to just cheat rather than actually try and persuade and win over voters to their cause, which apparently is a cause that people are not interested in.
It is absolutely accurate to say that. What we are seeing is that when Donald Trump comes into the state, he's picking fights with even his own people, Adrianne. And the last I checked, elections were about addition, and you bring people into your coalition, not like push people out. And so he does not have policies that are popular in our state. He has bragged about overturning Roe v. Wade, and we've seen how that has played out over the last few days with women who we're just hearing the story from 2 years ago, women dying as a result of the overturning of Roe v. Wade right in Georgia, a state that has awful maternal mortality rates, especially when it comes to Black women. But here we are, and he is doubling down on blaming advocates about the deaths of these women when it is squarely on the hands of our Governor Brian Kemp, who signed this abortion ban into law, and Donald Trump, who bragged about overturning Roe v. Wade.
Right. And it is actually stunning that we're just learning this story. I don't think I totally understood when I first heard the story of the young mother that the vice president talked about last night on her rally with Oprah. I don't think I understood when I first heard it that this is a story that's just coming to light and that her family decided to share. And
her family just learned exactly what happened.
Right.
They learned when ProPublica broke the news, her family learned that it was a preventable death because they got the report from our state-appointed maternal mortality review board.
Right.
So this is something that we don't know how many more stories there will be.
Right.
We've heard 2 this week. But again, there's such a backlog because of circumstances around women after childbirth in the state of Georgia. Our maternal mortality rates for Black women mirror that of third world countries.
Right.
And these are policy decisions.
Yeah.
We can and we will do better. That is why we have to show up to the ballot box and use our voices to elect leaders who actually care about the people that they're sent to represent.
Now, Congresswoman, we are 46 days or something like that from Election Day. We know
Adrianne,
that early vote.
This day off. We're 45.
Oh Lord, I am behind.
This day is gone.
We know that early vote will start in Georgia in a couple of weeks. Am I right?
October 15th.
October 15th. We know that the last day to register in Georgia is October 7th. If for folks who are thinking about what do I need to do, we have about a minute and a half left. If people are saying, what can I do? What do I need to do? How can I be helpful leading up into Election Day? What are you saying to folks? What are you saying to your constituents and folks around the country when you're out with the vice president actually on the campaign trail? What are you saying to folks that they can and should be doing right now before we get to early vote in the Election Day?
Well, first and foremost, if you live in the state of Georgia, we know that there is a lot going on to drop people from the voter rolls, and we need to make sure that your vote is counted. And so go to the Georgia Secretary of State's website, mvp.sos.ga.gov, and check your voter registration. Even if you are registered, make sure that your voter registration has not been canceled. That is mvp.sos.ga.gov. to make sure that you are still on the voter rolls, make sure you know where to go on Election Day, and then show up to vote on day one so that then you can help turn out voters for the rest of the election cycle. Vote early, get that vote banked so that you don't have to worry about if something happens or if there's a shenanigan at the polls. You have time to correct it. So we've got a lot of work to do. We only won Georgia by 11,780 votes in 2020. Right. We can do it again, but we can only do it if we come together and use our voices at the ballot box.
Congresswoman Nikema Williams, thank you so much. That was great advice for people wherever you live. Certainly if you live in Georgia, and even if you don't, check your registration, decide when you're going to vote early if you can so you can help turn out the rest of the voters. Make a plan to vote. Thank you so much. It's so good to talk to you, and I will be checking back in with you as we see what other shenanigans the y'all state board of elections tries over the next few days.
Thank you, Adrianne. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is KBLA Talk 1580. I am Adrianne Shropshire. Lots more when we come forward on the Black Pack.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Doug Davis with the latest from the Black Information Network. Despite mounting calls from some members of his own party to step down, North Carolina Lieutenant Governor and Republican nominee Mark Robinson, who is Black, is vowing to stay in the race. This comes after a bombshell report was released by CNN alleging Robinson made multiple obscene and divisive remarks while visiting a porn site between 2008 and 2012. A Philadelphia area theme park will not have to pay out $25 million in a racial discrimination